the members of the public, the staff of Uganda Law Society attending online and physically, council members present online and physically, and our guests today, Mr. Magara Umar, Sasi Marvin, and Emmanuel Kirunda. This is our 8th series, and the issues at hand, we have 2 issues at hand. We have the Kawempe by-elections, unmasking terror, confronting impunity. Issue number 2 is implementing the Supreme Court decision, the Karachunas, and Conundrum. The Karachunas are the Karamojongs who were arrested and kept in different detention facilities. So you are all welcome for this 8th series. I'll straight away invite the Vice President to come and take the podium to tell us a few words on implementing the decision of the Supreme Court and then the Karachunas. You're welcome, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam CEO. I'd like to welcome everyone, our guests who are here today, members of the press, all the media houses, secretariat staff present. You're all welcome. Those who are following online, as the CEO has clearly elaborated, this is the 8th series of our Rnblive. We usually pick out the most important rule of law issues. And as we begin this session, I'll invite our head rule of law, Afra, to guide us to the first session in accordance with the program for today. We have the Karachunas, the Karamojong, who are at our LAP or legal aid office in Moroto. They could not travel to Kampala because of the cost, but these are some of the members who have reached out to ULS for assistance, for help, because of the injustices they are facing. They have victims. These are relatives to the victims who are incarcerated, even after the Supreme Court judgment ruling, where all of them thought there was hope. They saw hope, but they are still looking for remedies, and they came to us. So we have them. You're welcome. I hope you're there. They will speak to us. We'll get to hear about their ordeal and have an engagement with them. You're welcome, and thank you for joining us. I'll welcome Afra to take us through the program.
Good afternoon. I start with the protocol that has already been observed. My name is Apio Afra. I'm the head rule of law. We'll start with the Karachuna Conundrum. The Uganda Law Society, the legal aid project, operates 23 clinics across the country. One of them is the Moroto Legal Aid Clinic, which conducts weekly legal sensitization sessions in prison. During the sensitization session, prisoners raised concerns regarding the Supreme Court judgment in Kabaziguruka versus Attorney General Constitutional Appeal number 2 of 2021 and sought guidance on the way forward from Uganda Law Society. In response, our Moroto office scheduled a session with military court remandees and found that Moroto prison currently holds 63 civilians who have been charged by the military court. We have reached out to some of their relatives to join us in today's session, and they are online in our Moroto clinic. Allow me recognize the presence of Mr. Lomino Moses, the LC1 chairperson, who is directly in contact with the relatives and was able to get them for us. We thank you, sir. They are being led by our community-based paralegal, Miss Mary Nakiru, who is going to introduce the relatives and have them share their story with us. Mary, please.
Nanam sa Pulukol Ojao. Veronica Moru. Nanam sa Veronica Moru.
เราจับไม้ก่อนเราจับไม้ก่อน
Nanam sa Losap Michael.
Hello? No, it's not. Right. Our online audience, we apologize for the glitch and we are now back on. Thank you. We are now back on track. Over to you, Mary. We are waiting for you.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Nakiru Mary. A community-based paralegal working with Uganda Law Society, Moroto. We are here with the relatives of people who are in prison. They're going to introduce their names and the names of their people who are arrested.
Ara kakro wajab Michael.
His name is Alashap Michael.
Apa ini laka tukang? Ara namu ya nabilan. Apa ini rari yang intik? Namu nyungol lagi najik. Namu ya nabilan. Just like people.
Ara kakira la mokal Mary.
Anam Sala Mokal Mary.
Ara kira la satu kalau ngokolo kudokin.
The brother's name is Longok Lokdokin.
Ara kakira kuna agile.
Anam Sakina Agnes.
Apakah yani tala jara ara kakira namu ya nabilan.
Is the father who is in prison.
Ara kakira kukala jalo. Ara yani tala kato kwa.
Anam Sakina Agnes.
Ara kakira sekali dia. Yani tala hii nombongnya kamera ara mpia.
Anam Sa Nomongina Kemer. It is the husband who is in prison.
Ara kakira beronka bisham. Ni tala hii ara kakira kudika pala king.
Anam Sa Veronica Losham, and it is the son who is arrested.
Laka tukang na kamu niya.
Since the brother was arrested,
Ika maisha mamu nila kata tanya para. Ayali tijang ke burin kodo nyare.
before the brother was arrested, he was having 2 donkeys.
Tamara bongo be ara ni timu be. Ara dia oh. Yana ya bunya dia kenapa? Lakalike.
Ang itiga lagi niya.
Ishe muncul di ke tiga lagi ni. Rara pada ni dia muncul.
Boleh kya kedar boleh. Go sa kontra sa kanya.
Napa ya dia loh. Kita mari napa hari ni nyare.
The brother was arrested at around 8 in the night. Nobody was here.
Kaya kunya ini.
Kaya punya ya hari ni ya ini kau nak tu. Nyare.
Before I am married to the family.
Baru cakap nak ini.
Nyoba munare kanya jiki kwa yangu kwa na kiyare mamu.
Omunara kiar na oi. Kaya kita ni dia ngat mata bom. Ayo kono kat mat. So kede datang area la robi. Akai bero da puno agudon.
The brother was the one helping the family, and since the brother was arrested up to now, there is no one helping them. Even the children are now at home. There is no one paying for school fees, and even some children they don't know where they are.
Akai bero agudon itu. Akai kita ni dah tutup bom. Tutup lalu. Ya tar kan bero ngawuni. Dah ya kan.
The brother was having 3 ladies, and they are all married, the other men, and they left children with them. The mother.
Ayo kita akimat abon. Mam beralih punya akimat. Ayo kono akimat.
He's now the only one with their mother, and there is nothing he can give to their mother.
Ya ita lakato kang. Rara koko siya koko ita ra koko. Nga yini atari bore ni entere. Ayo nga siya na kware. Ngida ngari. But mom nga yini abortar ni entere.
The brother was arrested at 8 in the evening, and she doesn't know why the brother was arrested.
Ngoli kinatara ngoli kinagaya kinain.
She has never seen the brother since he was arrested.
Karungu.
He's now 4 years.
Yakata nga darungu.
The brother has 3.
Yakata nga dahil communicate.
He has 11 children.
Atu nga berdada upudoni.
Since the brother was arrested, they don't know why the children are, and even the women, and one child has died. They tried to take him when they told them that he's not there.
Ngidweda ayala rodi ngidwe mam ngejomle tanabo ngidwe aye ko kunya ko jom ngidi ay dikini ngedalo P5 ngidwe gu dada ya ay dikide kunya yini atari ni sene ya kale.
Before the brother was arrested, there was a child who was in primary 5, but since he was arrested up to now, the child is they don't know why the child is. Other children are at home staying with her, and others they don't know why they are. Even the cows he was having, they raided all. Even the land they were cultivating, they have taken them.
Okay, you just go there. Speak, people are just watching.
For right is the father who was arrested. Before the father was arrested, she has been at school. Even after I was arrested at 8 in the evening. They tried to follow those soldiers who arrested the father, but they failed to help.
Ni katagna da ku apaki na bi loru ku de tamarta ka moda kene na wewe na ni polido na ni kai ni madagna na wewe na ni kan katagna da ka ro ko taga tamara ni tara ro bore ni ni tere da tamara ka ma ga wai ebe mambe be ko ito ke ta boy
Follow the father up to Patagat and ask why the father was arrested. But the
tamade chan ko lu shelu ala kinga be ko ito
father stole something.
tolo to bocha tamara na boy tanyo ka ma be itanta ngeto be tolom to dani to ana ngame anka.
They told them to get 500 each one.
Tama para boga because ita garapa ko dipenge de kitani do ngede kita chida school fees. Tama pia pakana pia ere kwa tagani ngole kana kwa natania boko be ko tawona ine anta parasho kunyo da.
They failed to get that money because it was their father who was helping them with everything.
Nya kunyo da prison tamara da ibi ana kwa rangi ngole kana tanda.
When they came to prison, they told them that they have transferred their father.
Tarwari chawda bongor la kal tanya katagna kartan school tada win tamara school da. Itanta ngedelenga.
They went back home. When she tried to go to school, they told her that they want school.
Araena dunya ta de miasini hawa.
She was studying in Adunya Secondary School. She was in senior one.
Toruari shabung ka kiboy kina na bonga berdana ya kada paka kiboy boy kina te ngadirwa to geng na tanda nguna kudar modelu awuri adra kina to kaya kare beragina to ka ham tanda
Even the women their father was having, they stayed with those women few days and they also went.
kadi so kido nyoto tani kiti dongo nyishe be dala kan tamadi be kiboy kino di paka ne bunne la chakna ta pa ku
They left her with some children.
Nyepedore ke
And
shaki
they told
boy
them to stay until their father will be released from prison.
be nyepedore ke shaki boy paka ngaru nyoto mon we tu boken ta pa ku
They told her that they cannot wait for her father to come.
Dada kiboy kinete kangode lu tada wunta na epite because ara fast bona nika pa
She also stayed with those children and there is nothing she was giving to those kids because she's their firstborn from the father, and it was their father who was helping them.
Muda na kai nike ka to kada te ka di ngulu pa lore ke
Even
shaka
her stepsisters went to Rupa and left her alone.
tada ngulu ba ni lo nya kai to dan kai to de palak because de kara pa kan yedi ngara kenti do wa kat ake mojuda yinyo ka na pe abom
When
nya
she tried to go to their brothers, they couldn't help her because it was their father who was helping all of them.
toru wori ro ba shata daw ni jika kiboy de kata na kaya kana na video na bisha ku wari tita
She even tried to look for work.
tada gun
She even tried to look for the scholarship, but she didn't.
toru wori shaja sta ara ku de regla la gu ari amulo ngita na bu ya ngara ka tan ake ngara na ketana ngode
Then she just decided to marry. And it is now the husband who's helping her.
ke mata de mu alta ke mat ni to kona
Even
shake
woman.
ni to kona shake ngara kini ngalu puda na bo ko be ya kada ngi dro ba de ku ya kin ti ngalu puda ke da mana ni baranda lu de ke
Even
bo
their
ko
land was taken. Amai babu talama.
ni to ma shaye ngi ti
Even the land was taken by relatives.
ni baranda lu ko be jokito ida ke be loko ne nda ngulu ni kata kinya ba ko ya to kare to gela rai pe da mono ngara kina re ala kala ba ka den da ngule ba ka kala shakin pa kala shakin bore de ka muna ya lakini
Everything.
lakini kile pa ido ano we kile pa da ba ka ku kan ke ngara kana tala chinga to ngula nyara ya ri ma bi bore yene te kangi yeni oda tane inter ngakro chilo mete ngakro tan
They are not requesting for your help to help them because there is nothing they can do. And they don't know why that people are arrested. He's the brother who's arrested and they Hanem sa Plukolo Jau. The names of their brother who's in prison is Loturkana Lakol. Since their brother was arrested, she has never seen. Oh yeah, the brother was arrested. He's now 4 years. And since before the brother was arrested, he was the one helping the family. But since he was arrested up to now, there is no one helping. He's the only one now remaining. The brother had 3 children. Since the brother was arrested up to now, the children are just there. There is no one helping them. They are not at school. They are just at street. There is no one who is taking them to school. He has never gone to court. You are aware of that. No control.
Raga to the share.
Her names are Shagam Share.
Raga on the ground and make like a night.
It is the husband who's arrested. The names are Lomongina Kemet. The husband.
I will not in a paparaja, no way in that way entering. You can share.
The brother was arrested in the morning, around 8.
You come with one. Latamana. Get it. You go to me. I will to live in a
They brought them to TPS.
Maybe I will live.
2021.
I know going to look at and never help prison.
They were arrested. They stayed in police, then they brought them to prison.
You go your car of prison and you got a rupio and I can
I tell you,
among the item logo, Yara Japan talk.
and they have never taken the husband to court since he was arrested. When they came to check the husband in prison, they told them that they have transferred.
Apena Yara. A moment you can, the winter around any like me. I thought they will read Alakale. I keep Piago, I will get on there. I know to one.
And since the husband was arrested up to now, they are just suffering at home with the children. No one is helping them. The children are just chasing water for people. When they get something, they buy food.
I'm going to read it.
They have not been going to school. They are just at home.
So I'm not even there. I know to turn around there. I'm targeting around. I want to home.
He's not the only one that saved them. And more than the
Yakarago, Manana Payango, near to me and Natamaraani. But you get me up on your well,
even the garden, the land she was having, when the husband went to prison, the husband was arrested. The neighbors took their land. She's not just like that. She's safe like that. There is no way she's cultivating.
Ara to kana ara ki jara san ko aglo to yoma ke nyara to ngana to ma ga ke ngara ke nai ga to ko na ni ki ga ko ke nai ko ta kana kara ke la wi to lo to nai ni ko patara ta ga lo kino ya ma na mu cha kron
Como no con ra ka tro beren ka mo tu.
Anem sa beren kamoru. Itenen. Kiduare mukon
Ayawa. Baba ya ra ka tro.
Mbekra ta ngai entai.
Ro ko kang.
This is the son who's in prison. Loduk ngai.
Ro ka pa wa tin.
Loduk apalo ikin. Those are the names. Mparunya yala maloko ko nalo prison. Ori ya ne. The son is now 4 years in prison since 2021.
Ni cha parache. Yang cai yo ka ala ka.
Ni kya ini?
Gai. Yang cai.
Ilanya ya ini.
Ai yo nya ge ni la nya.
Ilanya. The son was just arrested at 8 in the morning.
Apa ya ge ni ya ni ma de kan. Tiling ko na kan ani ka pa
And since he was taken up to now, she has never seen. Kwa kwa na munadira kun kijana ta ene loko kun.
Ta ki ka da wi. Ka jam.
Mambo reti ya yo.
Am te ga.
Ya ka taringi dua.
Ya ka tori a te da ru ko na.
Then they right.
Ba ru te so ko. Apa da ba ra ma na.
Since the son is up to now, there is no one else in her.
Ba ko ni dong abo.
He is now alone. Ambale.
A da ba ru.
Even the wife to the son has got another man. And she's the only one with children now.
Ba ko na isu ko tori a ko ko na.
You why ya mtu riongisa.
Ari ki yang ko ko ni.
She's now staying with three children.
Arapani dia ke ngara kan ko.
It was the son who was helping her before he was arrested.
Ara itu. Bagaimana ko ko.
She was having 2 children, but the girl died.
Dong na ye dia le.
She remained with only the son. And since the son was arrested, no one is helping her.
Nay mo na pa ri. Ko chap chap.
Pero ya ni de los que. Better young, I am
Apa yana dah ngapa?
the children are just staying at home. They are not going to school.
Ai
There is no one to pay.
Aku redan. Oh,
I like to slay for the idea.
aku itu nak tu dia.
You cannot manage the day anymore.
Harus ucapan dia katanya.
Because they can't help you.
Anjir dia
Together with the women.
Ani saya termasuk dia pancing, dia pancing.
No. Arabanya jail over.
Anjir dia mana pancing? Pancing tu. Kalau saya cakap orang lupa.
Because the time was out there, but now there is no one, even food. There is no one to buy for them.
Pancing bukan, dia sampai.
Thank you. These are the relatives we managed to get.
Stop it.
Thank you, Mary. Kindly thank them also for coming out to tell us the plight of their relatives and what they are undergoing individually. I now call the VP to take the podium and address us.
All right. Thank you, Afra, once again. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Moroto Clinic. Now, when we talk about the real challenges being faced by the indigent, the marginalized, the vulnerable, these are the people we are talking about. A few weeks ago, everyone was excited about the Supreme Court ruling. It was what everyone waited for. Everyone hoped for better results, especially for people like the relatives we've seen and the victims, the people who are in prison. But even after the ruling, they are still seeking for a remedy. They are still reaching out. They are still stuck. They are in prisons, many of them. When we encounter them as the ULS, the questions they ask are, how can we get help? Like we said a few weeks ago, we've been focusing on a few cases of people who are known, the names that are known, the people that the public pays attention to. But we have the Karachuna, very many of them. We earlier wrote to the Commissioner of Prisons to avail us with a list of those people who are pending trial in the military courts. We've not received a response. But even that, we have people who have reached out, victims and their relatives seeking for help. We all thought the solution would be in that Supreme Court landmark ruling. We all thought after that ruling, these people have been waiting for years and years. Their cases being heard, proceeding illegally in the military courts will be dealt with. Probably they would go back home, see their families, take care of their children, provide for their families. And relatives like these ones were waiting for them. Unfortunately, that's not the case. The few who have reached out in hundreds are the ones where our staff, our legal aid staff, are able to reach out during these prison visits and interviews and sensitizations. Even in prison where they are currently being held, most of them, there are no remand warrants. Prisons is keeping them, which you believe they are keeping them illegally, because you should not keep someone in prison without remand warrants. But then again, they'll also tell you they are waiting for orders. We're told some of their cases, most of their cases would be transferred and handled by the DPP. The people you're seeing, the Karachuna, none of this has been done. None of their cases has been taken up. DPP has no idea. They've not been transferred to the civil courts. And yet, they still stay in prison, awaiting a remedy. Now the question is, where is justice? If we thought delivery of a landmark judgment ruling is justice in itself, is that justice? It leaves a lot of questions. And as the Uganda Law Society, we know we have a mandate to the public under Section 3 of the Uganda Law Society Act. The public looks at us for solutions. And like we've always said, anything that touches rule of law, access to justice, we shall not sit back and watch. We shall do the best we can. Unfortunately for such people, they all need legal representation. But how many can afford lawyers? The people you're seeing there, the Karachuna, how many can afford services of a lawyer? How about those who are in areas where not even legal aid service providers, not even ULS through legal aid will reach? It again leaves a big question. Earlier I was discussing with the treasurer here about the aspect of having to provide legal services to each and every one of those. You've heard from the Moroto Clinic, we have a list of 68 from Moroto Prison. That was as of yesterday. But there are others who have been transferred. You've heard them, others have been transferred to other prisons. They need to be reached out to. But again, the question we had was, who takes care of that cost? The resources that are required, where do they come from? We know we have pro bono advocates, lawyers who can offer free legal services for such, the indigent, the marginalized, the poor. But again, there are a lot of resources required. What we've been, asking is, we need to have an end to this. We need to see the relevant stakeholders respect the rule of law. We need a solution. We need help. These people need help. We shouldn't just have a ruling, a judgment on the books, and then we spend another 4 years with people in prison without any solution. Because that is not justice. That's not what we expected. Of course, as the Uganda Law Society, and like we said, we've always said, we are open to receiving some of these complaints. People are able to reach out, and we shall take the necessary steps to seek legal redress for those who are able, those ones who are able to get, all those ones who reach out, like the ones who have visited our offices. But we believe we still have a big role to play. What we are asking for is, let the relevant stakeholders, let the relevant officers take the steps that are supposed to be taken in respect of that Supreme Court ruling. We're in the process of seeking at least consequential orders from the Supreme Court to ensure that those ones who are still facing trial, those ones whose files have not been handled, those ones who have pending appeals from the military court martials, at least we have consequential orders to have these people released and go back home. There are thousands of them. You saw yesterday's headlines in the Monitor newspaper talking about thousands of these people who are in various prisons. And we believe we have a role to play. We call upon all those members who are interested in helping, all those who are able to support in one way or another, to come and give a hand so that at least we help the people who do not have a way, who cannot help themselves. Those who have no hope, but their hope lies in us. Of course, some of them have had their hope lie in people, their own, who have not been able to help them. They look at them with hope, but they've not had help from them. They've not gotten any help. And the only thing we can do is do the best we can. So like I earlier said, we shall take the necessary legal steps to get for those ones who are able to reach out to the necessary remedies as the Uganda Law Society, as the Radical New Bar. So thank you very much for reaching out, and we are open to receiving more and more, and we do the best that we can. Thank you very much. Uganda. Bansabye okwogerako mu Luganda. Ngenda gezaako okuyita mu bwangu, mu bufunzefunze. Anti ku nsonga ze tubadde twogerako leero, yemu ku nsonga ezikwatagana ne ensalawo ya court enkulu, aba Supreme Court, ng'ejjawo kooti z'amagye. Ensala yakolebwa nga egamba nti kooti z'amagye oba kooti y'amagye gye tuyita court martial tekkirizibwa kuwuliriza misango gy'abantu ba bulijjo. Naye obuzibu bwe bwagira wadde ensala eyo twagifuna, tukyalina abantu bangi nnyo abakyali mu makomera nga bali bagenda mu kooti z'amagye. Tubadde tulaba abakaramoja abali e Moroto office yaffe abatuukiridde Uganda Law Society nga basaba buyambi, bagamba abantu baabwe bali mu komera tebamanyi kyakuzaako. Bali basuubira nti ensala ya kooti ejja bayamba basobole okuvaayo mu makomera baddeyo ewaka. Naye tekyakolebwa. Abamakomera bakyabakutte, tebalina kooti gye babatwalamu, tebalina musango gwe babasomera, bali eyo balinze. Bano bwe mulabyawo ku bwe tubadde twogera nabo, b'enganda n'abazadde n'abaana b'abantu abo be baasiba, abatamanyi kye bazaako nga basaba buyambi. So ffe tuvumirira nga Uganda Law Society tuvumirira ekikolwa ekyo oba ebitongole ebyo ebikyakuta abantu abo mu bukyamu. N'ekirala ne tusaba nti kooti enkulu oba ensukulumu yandibadde nga essaawa enkola erabika nti ensala eyakolebwa abantu baganyulwamu oba bafuna obwenkanya, lwa nsonga nti kibanga abawa abatwa byoya bya nswa buli bw'aba agamba nti nakuuma ensala ya kooti nejja naye nkyali wano ntudde kikyenzizaako. Nti ennaku eziwedde mubadde mulaba abantu abamu be tumanyi abamanyikiddwa nga balaba balwanako balina balooya, naye abo tebalina busobozi. Tebalina busobozi busasula looya okumuyambako. Kuba Supreme Court kye yatuwa nti omuntu akyalina okudda mu mitendera emirala okusobola okuvaayo wa mukomera. Ne basuubiza nti emisango gyabwe gigende mu kooti eza civil court eza muntu wa bulijjo, naye ate ekyo nakyo tekinakolebwa. Tulika tu myezi 2 neera nga tewali ssuubi, tetulaba ssuubi nti ki ekikolebwawo ku nsonga z'abantu bwe bati. Era ffe tugamba kimenya mateeka omuntu okuba ng'ali mu komera, okubeera ng'ali mu komera nga talina mpapula ze tuyita remand warrant oba ezimukiriza okubeera mu komera, tebalina kooti gye bamutwalamu. So ffe nga Uganda Law Society obusobozi bwe tulina naffe si bwe bungi ennyo ku lw'ensonga nti okuyamba abantu bwe batyo bonna. Group gye mulabye e Moroto, Karamoja, abatuukiridde bali mu bantu nga 6 mu musobyo. Naye ate abamu bali mu makomera amalala baagala obuyambi bwa looya ba puliida. Ffe wadde tusobola okuyamba abantu ku bwereere okuva mu kitongole ekya Uganda Law Society Legal Aid oba ne balooya abawa obuyambi ku bwereere pro bono nakyo kyetaaga nsimbi, kyetaaga resources oba okuteekamu. Nti ate ensimbi ezo zeetaagibwa naffe tetukola ki, tetuzirina. Ensonga lwaki bagamba omumpi wakoma wakwata. Tujja gezaako okukwata tetusobola, naye tetujja kukoma ekyo kuba tumanyi tulina obuvunaanyizibwa eri eggwanga n'omuntu wa bulijjo okulwanirira eddembe ly'obuntu n'enfuga y'amateeka. So okuyitira mu buvunaanyizibwa obwo butuweebwa etteeka tujja kugezaako era tusaba ne sekusaaba nti bekikwatako abakulu mu gavumenti, kooti, DPP, Attorney General bagezeeko okwanguya enkola eyo. Naye baba tebasobodde oba nga tekikoleddwa tetujja kutuula ffe nga Uganda Law Society. Abantu abo batuukiridde n'abalala tujja kugezaako okubafunira obuyambi nga tugenda mu kooti tuyita mu balooya baffe abayambira abantu ku bwereere nga tutwala ensonga zaabwe mu kooti okulabika nti basobola okuyimbirwa oba okuva mu makomera. Naye era nga bwe njogedde kye tunaasobola kye tugenda okukolako tuyita n'oyo yenna abasobola okuwa obuyambi mu ngeri yonna. Bannamateeka bannaffe abasobola okukola pro bono oba okuyamba abantu abateesobola, abazira kisa abasobola okuyamba mu kuwa obuyambi nga tugambye nti Legal Aid yaffe ekolera ku banakyewa abawayo obuyambi bw'ensimbi. Kuba omulimu gwe tugenda okukola gwe tulina okukola mulimu munene nnyo. Mwalabye amawulire agafulumye eggulo nga boogera ku bantu abasuka mu 4,000 abali eyo nga bava Karamoja, Karachuna, nga teri aboogerako, teri abalwanirira, teri abafaako, naye nga bali mukomera okuviira ddala engeri gye bayingizibwamu nga bayita mu kooti martial oba mu kooti z'amagye. So ffe nga Uganda Law Society tujja kulwana nga bwe tusobola okulabika ddala tulwanira ddembe ly'omuntu n'enfuga y'amateeka mu ggwanga nga tuyamba ddala abantu bano abali mu bifo ebyo okusinziira ku ensala eyakolebwa Supreme Court. Weewaawo bannange.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions? Any questions from within or online? Yes, Mr. President, we have a question here.
Thank you, Council. My name is Judith Kukunda from Uganda Radio Network. Recently, we saw the executive and parliament holding meetings to make amendments within the UPDF Act following that Supreme Court decision banning the trial of civilians in the military court. So I don't know what you say about that, because it's like there are proposals to bring back the court martial. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We've seen that. We saw the NRM Parliamentary Caucus go on a retreat to discuss amendments to the APDF Act. And what we asked them at the time was, whatever they do, whatever they decide, should not be something that takes us back where we are coming from. They should then take us back to the Garden of Eden. Because if the Supreme Court has decided that civilians should not be tried in the military courts, it would be absurd to come up with an amendment, a law that contradicts the decision of court. Whatever amendments they might make should still fit within the provisions of the law, as stated by the Supreme Court. So we call upon them. What we ask them is, in this process, as they do that, what we do not want to see is civilians, a common person, being tried in a military court, because those courts are not meant for civilians. And like the Supreme Court rightly put it, it's a disciplinary body for serving officers. So all we are saying, they should respect that pronouncement and do not even attempt to come up with ideas or amendments that contravene the decision of court in that regard. Thank you. Any other?
Thank you, Mr. President. Any other questions? Those online or physically? If there are no, we shall kindly move to the next agenda item.
Afro.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, once again.
Thank you.
I'll invite back the Vice President to give us a statement on, in line with issue 1 before our guests can take over, to also give us their experiences about the violence that just happened recently in Kawempe on the by-elections. Mr. Vice President, you're welcome.
Thank you once again, Madam CEO, and thank you, everyone. As you've been following the events that have been happening this past week and this week in the Kawempe North by-elections, the events are so concerning. And as the Uganda Law Society, we see this as a very dangerous precedent that is being set, especially as we prepare for 2026 general elections. The blatant abuse of human rights, the disrespect for rule of law, and the way the situation is currently is so absurd. We feel, as the Uganda Law Society, the country is being taken back to those dark days, the dark moments. And before I go on to give our position, our official position, I extend thanks to the people who have been at the forefront. And I also feel sorry for our colleague, Nalukola Rnblive, who is a member of the Uganda Law Society, who has been, battered, tortured, simply because he's exercising his constitutional right. He wants to represent his people, just like another person should. But we saw what happened to him, which is absurd, on the date of nominations. We saw he was dragged, how he was beaten, how he was treated, how he was tortured, regardless of the relevant laws that we have to protect, the freedoms, personal freedoms. And this happening to our member is so absurd. We feel it's not just because he's our member, but because it can happen to anyone. We've seen the events unfolding, journalists being beaten amidst their work through this by-election exercise. Now, I'll give our official statement concerning the continued violence in the ongoing Kawempe North by-elections. Because if you've been following right from the day of nominations, every day, as the campaigns are ongoing, we are witnessing this violence, this, blatant abuse of human rights in broad daylight. The total disrespect of the rule of law by security agencies. And our official statement, I'll read verbatim, is that the Uganda Law Society strongly condemns the escalating violence witnessed during the Kawempe North parliamentary by-election campaigns. On 3rd March 2025, media reports and footage showed security forces, including the Uganda Police Force, the Joint Anti-Terrorism Task Force, JAT, the Uganda People's Defense Forces, and plainclothes operatives brutalizing supporters of the National Unity Platform with beatings, live bullets, and tear gas. This follows the abduction of our member, NUP candidate Arias Rnblive last week by security operatives shortly after his nomination by the Electoral Commission. Such acts of intimidation and lawlessness not only threaten the integrity of the electoral process, but also erode public trust in the rule of law and democratic governance. These actions a clear violation of fundamental human rights and democratic principles. Article 69(1) of the 1995 Constitution of Uganda guarantees Ugandans the right to choose and adopt a political system of their choice through free and fair elections. 20 years ago, Ugandans elected to be governed under the multi-party dispensation. However, this cannot be realized in an environment tainted with fear, intimidation, and violence. If such grave violations are occurring during a by-election, it raises serious concerns about what will happen during the upcoming 2026 general elections. The Uganda Law Society calls upon the Uganda Police Force and other security agencies to desist from the use of excessive force and ensure that law and order are maintained in a manner that respects human rights and the rule of law. We also call upon the Electoral Commission to take a firm stand against electoral violence and ensure a fair and transparent electoral process in line with its constitutional mandate. ULS will not stand by as democratic principles are trampled upon. We will receive complaints from all victims without discrimination and actively pursue legal action against those responsible for these atrocities and hold them accountable for violating constitutional rights. The Uganda Law Society remains committed in defending the rule of law, constitutionalism, and protecting human rights in Uganda, as we are mandated to do under the law. And that is our official statement regarding the events. And like I've said, we keep engaging the members of the public and people are directly affected. I am happy to have our colleagues. We have Sas Marvin. We have my friend, I call him a politician. For us, we are not politicians. Umar, and I know they've been in the thick and thin of this. We have the General Secretary for Media Association. We saw journalists also falling victims of this. And we feel this is leaving no one behind. If we have media personnel, if we have lawyers, advocates, if we have politicians and common persons, men and women being battered and tortured, all in the name of an election, which on paper, we presume it should be a free and fair election, free and fair participation. But we see such events unfolding. I believe, and I want to really inform you that you're not alone. As the Uganda Law Society, we have your backs. These are the kind of human rights abuses we cannot stand by and watch because we have a role to play. So I'll really invite Umar and Marvin, probably beginning with Umar, to Luganda. Oh, sorry. Bansabye nsooke nnyonnyole mu Luganda nga sinayita abakubiddwa emigo be bawaludde ababiiseemu okujja otunyonyola kye baayiseemu. Kya buswavu nnyo ate kya nsonyi okuba nga emyaka gino mu kyasa kino ekya 2025 tulaba ebintu bwe bityo mu ggwanga. Nti mu Luganda eno ye statement yaffe oba ekiwandiiko kyaffe nga Uganda Law Society ekikwatagana ne obutabanguko bwe tulaba mu kalulu k'e Kawempe by election ak'e Kawempe North. Ffe nga Uganda Law Society tuvumirira ne sekuvumirira obutabanguko bwe tuze tulaba mu kalulu aka Kawempe North by election. Tinga 3 Ogwokusatu omwaka guno twalaba amawulire ne bu video nga buyita ku mikutu egy'enjawulo nga bulaga ab'ebyokwerinda nga muli abapoliisi, abajat, aba UPDF n'ab'engoye eza bulijjo nga bakuba batulugunya abantu ba ekibiina kya NUP nga bakubibwa, ne tulaba amasasi, ne tulaba tiyagaasi nga babawalula batulugunyizibwa. Kino kyaviirako n'okukwatibwa okuwambibwa okwa memba waffe Elias Nalukoola Luyimbaazi nga naye looya yeesimbyewo mu kalulu k'e Kawempe, ng'abo ab'ebyokwerinda bennyini baamukwata nga yakava okutongozebwa okwesimbawo. Electoral Commission ng'emaze okumutongoza okumukkiriza okwesimbawo. Ffe tugamba nti enkola eno oba okutiisatiisa kuno n'okutulugunya abantu abeetabidde mu kalulu kityoboola ekitiibwa oba eddembe ly'omuntu n'ekitiibwa ekiri ku mbeera y'akalulu oba mu process ey'akalulu. Era tulaba nti kireeta okubuusabuusa tiddala oba tulina akalulu mu ggwanga oba waliwo okulonda okw'obwenkanya. Nti ebikolwa bino biragira ddala okutyoboola eddembe ly'obuntu n'enfuga y'amateeka. Nti okuva mu ssemateeka yaffe oba constitution waliwo akawaayiro 69 akawa obuyinza oba akakkiriza nti buli munnayuganda wa ddembe ba Uganda twakkiriza okuyita mu bibiina bya multiparty oba mu kufugibwa ebibiina eby'enjawulo ng'ate tuyita mu kalulu ak'obwenkanya mu kulonda. Emyaka 2 giyiseewo nga tukkaanyiza oba nga twalonda multiparty oba okukkiriza ebibiina okufuga. Naye kino tetusobola kifuna, tetusobola kituukako mu mbeera eno erimu okutiisatiisibwa, okukubibwa n'obutabanguko bwe tuzze tulaba. Bino bwe binaagenda mu maaso bye tulaba mu kalulu kano aka by-election kituwa entiisa ki kye tunaasuubira oba ki kye tunaalaba mu kalulu akajja aka mwaka ogujja 2026 mu kulonda omukulembeze w'eggwanga n'ababaka ba palamenti. Kitweraliikiriza nti kino just kya Kawempe akalulu ka by-election okuzaawo myezi ndowooza nga 9 egibulayo omuntu okubeera mu kifo ekyo. Naye ffe kituwa okweraliikirira ki ekijja mu maaso mu mwaka ogujja mu kalulu ak'obukulembeze. Era ffe nga Uganda Law Society tusaba aba Uganda Police n'ebitongole by'okwerinda ebirala okulekerawo okukozesa eryanyi eriyitiridde bamanya gayitiridde n'okulabika nti bakuuma eddembe, okulabika nti enfuga y'amateeka eteekebwamu ekitiibwa mu mirimu gyabwe gye bakola naddala mu mbeera y'akalulu kano. Nti era tusaba n'ekitongole ky'ebyokulonda oba Electoral Commission okuvaayo kuba kano kalulu kalina okubeera mu mikono gya Electoral Commission. Yerina okulabika nti kali mu ngalo ze n'ekyo tuzze tulaba kirabika nti Electoral Commission teri in charge oba si be batwala akalulu kano ebigenda mu maaso tebakirinaako nabo buyinza. So tusaba Electoral Commission eveeyo kola omulimu gwayo ebeere nga yeri in charge oba yeriko ovunaanizibwa ku kalulu kano. Era ffe nga Uganda Law Society tetujja kutuula, tetujja sirika nga tulaba eddembe ly'obuntu lirinyizibwako oba litulugunyizibwa nga bwe tuzze tulaba mu kalulu. Tujja kugenda mu maaso n'okufuna okwemulugunya okw'abantu ab'enjawulo. Tetujja kulondawo baani oba wa kala ki oba wa kibiina ki oba wa ggwanga ki. Omuntu yenna afunye obuzibu atuusibwako okutulugunyizibwa mu mbeera eno, tujja kubawa obuyambi abanatuukirira okubafunira obwenkanya mu mateeka nga tukwata ku abo bennyini ababatuusaako obuzibu ng'omuntu ssekinoomu. Era ffe nga Uganda Law Society tukyagenda mu maaso n'okulwanirira eddembe ly'obuntu n'enfuga y'amateeka mu ggwanga. Nange obwe bubaka bwaffe.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I would like to indulge you and ask whether we can address some matters that came up about the Karachuna issue before we get into the other. Is it okay?
Please.
Yeah, there are some comments online. There's some 2 comments on. One is a comment, the other is a question. I would like to read verbatim, if it's okay. One of our members, Joseph Henry Cunha, Senior Counsel. Thanks us for the thanks you for the elaborate explanation, Bwana VP. However, subject to further clarification, I contend in verbatim, I contend that the Supreme Court owes us all a duty to put rest the impasse, like was done in the famous Susan Chigula decision, which catered for all convicts under the impunged mandatory death sentence. We thank you so much. The second one is from Charles Donaldson Ojira from Karamoja Rights Advocates Network, who states that he is, as of the name, in the matter of Onyango Obo and another versus Attorney General Constitutional Appeal number 2 of 2002, while this case primarily dealt with freedom of expression, it emphasized the importance of due process and fair trial rights under the Ugandan Constitution. It reinforces the argument that military courts lack the necessary independence and impartiality required to try civilians. The application of law cannot be selectively applied, and we continue with our efforts to defy such efforts that curtail the realization of rule of law. We can't continue begging for MPs from Karamoja to speak up on these issues. So his question is, what concrete steps have Karamoja's MPs taken to challenge government failures, and how can they improve their accountability efforts? Thanks for upholding social justice and rule of law at all times. Mr. Vice President.
Right. Thank you very much, the people online, for those comments. And Senior Counsel Cunha, this is what we've been saying, that it appears like the Supreme Court gave us, we called it nusu mukate, or vyanswa, because we don't have finality to this. We have a judgment that requires other steps, other legal steps to be taken. Yet we really need finality. And this is what we are calling upon the Supreme Court. We are calling upon this court to give us at least consequential orders from the judgment, which has, left a lot of questions, people discussing. We shouldn't have that kind of, situation where people are still seeking for solutions. That is the remedy out of that judgment. And that is our cry. That's what we've been calling for. And that was from Donaldson. Yeah, Donaldson, like we've said before, everyone has a role to play. Those are Karamoja MPs. Like I stated earlier, the Karachuna people have a lot of hope. They look at these representatives with hope. But what are they giving them? What are they doing for them in their search for justice? It's not just MPs. There are other members from Karamoja they are looking up to. They expect them to give them a solution, to help them, to fight for them, because they are the voiceless. They need a voice that can speak for them. So we call upon every other stakeholder who is able to contribute to this cry so that these people can get justice. We need to see justice. We need to fight together. It cannot be a one-man battle. And as the Ugandan society, we are putting that brick, expecting the other members to add on to that, to realize the ultimate goal of justice for all. Thank you very much. Like I said earlier, we saw the members of NUP being tortured, being beaten up. I know my friend Magara Umar was in the primaries. Though he's not on the ballot, he's at the forefront. I'm very sure among the people who are running up and down being chased by tear gas. He's here together with Sasi Marvin, who is also an Upligo, and would want to hear from them, on the status, really, what does this mean? Where is it taking us? And the injustices that are being faced. Like I said, we are not partisan as the Ugandan society, but anything that touches the rule of law, where we see the NUP being a target, it's like they're targeted. in this whole violence, we've not seen any other people being treated the way the NUP members are being treated. And we feel it is our duty to support any fight for the rule of law and human rights. So I'll invite Umar to come and speak to us. And probably after, you'll be joined by Marvin to complete. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President, the guests here, our host, Uganda Law Society, and members of the press. Good afternoon. My name is Magala Umar. I am a member of the National Unity Platform, and for the case of Kawempe, I was a contestant in the party primaries. I'm here to join my voice to that of the Vice President and members of the Uganda Law Society to condemn the violence, the mayhem, the battering, and all ill that is meted onto us as NUP, our candidate, Council Elias Luimbaz Nalukola, and the supporters of the National Unity Platform and the electorate of Kawempe Division North, not forgetting members of the press. You know very well, it all started last week on the 26th of February when our candidate moved to the election electoral commission officers. He moved with actually, after the day began with the abduction of his official agent. You know very well that by law, you're given about 3 people on your nomination forms. You have someone who proposes you, the seconder, and then the official agent. That morning, the official agent of our candidate, Elias Luimbaz Nalukola, and that is the coordinator of NUP in Kawempe Division North, one Serobili Charles, was abducted in the morning just from my home to append my signature as a proposer to our candidate. He was abducted by the military at Kawempe Mbogo when he had gone to take the same nomination papers to the seconder because of donning red, or what is famously known as the NUP attire. Resultantly, we notified our Secretary General, and that is David Lewis Rubongoya. He moved swiftly to the election offices in Kawempe and to seek actually for new nomination forms. And that was around 10 a.m. in the morning. It is very unfortunate that some of us were blocked by the Uganda police, by the military, not to come near to the offices, but luckily the candidate was allowed to access the premises of the Electoral Commission, and we tried to talk to the Electoral Commission about what had transpired that day or that morning. Shortly after nomination, it was very unfortunate that after nomination, members of JAT, a security agency, and others in plain clothes attacked our candidate as he was trying to move towards his home for a supplication from his parents, or for blessings from his parents. Even when our candidate tried to flee the scene on a boda, he was ruthlessly battered, he was beaten, and forced into an open van, famously known as a drone. The proposers and the seconders and other members of the National Unity Platform, actually about 5 people, were severely beaten. Councillors, there were councillors. One was Nachito Sara, who had proposed our candidate, and another one was called Senono Dennis. They were beaten to pulp and taken, forced into a drone, and then dumped at Kawempe police station. It is very unfortunate that all this happened in plain sight of our electorate, of the government, and all those concerned. You will also remember that on the fateful day, on that very, very day, a journalist was beaten, and his eye almost shattered, and that is the one Ibrahim Miracle, and actually is still in Zambia hospital nursing a shattered eye. Another councillor was pushed into the trench, and also her councillor, she's called Ruth Nancha, her skull was damaged. She's also still in hospital. So our candidate was bruised, the hands were bruised, and is actually getting treatment. As if that was not enough, just this very, very week, on Monday, when our president was moving to Kawempe to canvass votes for our candidate, Elias Luimbazi Nalukola, the venue. Of course, you cannot direct a president of a party with this entourage to just move anyhow without his entourage to the campaign venue. As he was moving from the party headquarters, what happened was total mayhem, total beatings, using batons, using sticks, live bullets fired, and all these were done by the same very people dressed in black, being assisted with military police, being assisted by the DPC of Wandegea, a one Hassan Hiwumbire. It is very, very unfortunate that the people who are supposed to keep law and order are violating rights of man and citizen. That is the case scenario that is happening in Kawempe. That very day, a top TV journalist, a one Kawika, Stephen, was battered, forced to erase a footage he had captured about the violence that is taking place in Kawempe Division North. But as the situation is taking shape, or as the build-up to the election is taking shape, people have tried to soldier on, and people actually, this is also affecting the process, the electoral process. This is affecting the electoral process because people have to first know what is taking place on the venue, on the campaign, on the campaign venue. Then that's when they come to they have to turn up. It is very unfortunate that there is heavy deployment in Kawempe on a daily basis, especially on the venues where our candidate is going to stage or is to stage a rally. It is really double standards that the ruling regime, in fact, the rogue regime, the NRM, the police, the military, and the JAT only escorted the NRM candidate on the following day of nomination, even directing her peacefully. People were were carrying out processions dressed in yellow attire. We really condemn this as NUP, and we call upon members of the public, members of the media. The Uganda Law Society is doing it, and we are very, very grateful to the Radical New Bar and its entire leadership, that at least they have come up to talk bad about this, to condemn the evils in Kawempe, in the Kawempe North by-election. And I would like to assure the nation, assure our people out there that they should not fear, because fear is the only bridge between us and our freedom. As I conclude, Mr. President, allow me thank you for inviting us here to talk about these pertinent issues, because the people who are supposed to talk about these issues are tight-lipped. You wonder how a DPC of Wandegea is holding a stick to hound, to batter unarmed civilians, unarmed supporters, because of donning a mere red attire. Our members, MPs, Honorable Nyeko was arrested, Honorable Mwadankunyinji was arrested, Honorable Hassan Chiwanuka Mulima Mayuni was arrested, and when they dump you at the police station, they go ahead, beat you up, batter you, and force you to remove the red attire. Actually, they even go an extra mile of asking you, do you have some money on you that we can buy you new clothes? If you have on mobile money, they will go ahead and force you to withdraw it, so that they buy you new clothes and you leave the red attire at the police stations as exhibits. We don't know whether there is a law that prohibits people to dress in a way that they want. Over 32 members and supporters of the National Unity Platform were yesterday but one, Tuesday, arraigned before the Grade 1 Magistrates Court and charged with common nuisance and consequently remanded to prison. We don't know whether this is an election, whether this is a war, whether this is what, but we really condemn this and in the strongest terms, and we call upon all stakeholders, actually including the Electoral Commission, to come up. If need be, they should halt what is going on in Kawempe, because the environment is tainted with fear, is tainted with intimidation, is tainted with mayhem, and actually some of them even have knives. There was a journalist, a media personality of the President Chagulanyi, who was slit in the hand. He was slit, he was cut. You can imagine, because of holding a camera, which is not actually a weapon. Where is Uganda heading with all this? Some of us have been beaten. You saw a lady in the papers. Yes, was it yesterday or on social media? She's called Nabosa Mukisa. She was donning a red overall. She was beaten to pulp using a solido wire. And another one was called Nachitende, was also beaten in a similar way. Very, very many. So far we have like over 50 casualties. Over 50, before even Mr. Museveni comes to Kawempe. Now we wonder what is going to happen on the eve of Mr. Museveni coming to Kawempe. Because we have seen this happen in the previous elections. We've seen it is total bloodshed in Kawempe. It is total mayhem. We call upon members of the public to condemn this. We call upon members of the Electoral Commission, the chairperson, Mr. Justice Byabakama, to come clean actually, because these are all processes to the election day. If they don't want us to participate in the elections, then why then would they organize these elections? Because this seems like something like they have come together. It is a syndicate. This seems like a syndicate between the Electoral Commission and security agencies. Allow me stop here. Allow me thank you for this opportunity, for addressing our plight as people of Kawempe North. I remain Magala Umar.
Thank you.
Okay. I've been asked to translate the conclusion in Luganda. Sebo omumyuka wa president wa Uganda Law Society ne bakatuchaza aba Uganda Law Society, tuli wano okwemulugunya, tuli wano okuvumirira ebigenda maaso mu Kawempe Division North. Nali omu kubaali bavuganya mu no primaries ez'akalulu na Kawempe North, era ndi musaale nnyo mu kunoonyeza candidate waffe Elias Luimbazi Nalukola akalulu mu Kawempe, wakati mu kutiisibwa, wakati mu kuyiwa amagye, wakati mu kubwa, wakati mu kusibwa, wakati mu buli fujjo lyonna erikolebwa ab'ebitongole by'okwerinda. Nga bwe tubategeezezza nti byatandikira ddala ku lunaku wiiki ewedde, abantu baffe lwe beewandiisa, candidate waffe official agent wa candidate waffe yawambibwa era n'atwalibwa ku poliisi y'e Kawempe olw'okuba yali ayambadde mu ngeri eraga obuwagizi eri nuupu mu bimyufu. Candidate waffe twategeeza mangu Ssaabawandiisi w'ekibiina David Lewis Rubongo yagenda ku kakiiko k'ebyokulonda, era etakkirizibwa bantu bangi nnyo wadde nga twali tugenze ate okulaba engeri gye tusobola okumuwandiisaamu kubanga ebiwandiiko bye byali bibiwambiddwa. Ekyo nno kyalagirwa bwatu nti effujjo lyali litandise okukolebwa, era candidate waffe bwe yamala yawandiisibwa. Bw'amala okuwandiisibwa aba agenda ava ku kakiiko k'okulonda mu Kawempe ku Tula Road, aba tannatambulako na kabanga kawanvu. Abasajja abali mu byambalo ebya black abategeerekeka nga aba Joint Anti-Terrorism Task Force JAT ne bajja ne vaani, nga vaani eyo egudde enzigi zaayo, ne bakuba abantu abaliwo, ne bakuba bannamawulire abaliwo, ne bakuba abaali bamusekendi nze, kubanga abantu tebaali bangi nnyo, baali batono nnyo. Oli ayinza ogamba nti baali bakola procession, naye bozza obutambi oba abaali balabye oba abalaba eggulire eryo, ojja kulaba nti waliwo abantu batono nnyo. Candidate waffe n'akubibwa bubi nnyo era n'atwalibwa mu kalwaliro akaali n'awambibwa, fact yawambibwa n'atwalibwa ku poliisi gye yava n'agenda mu kalwaliro. Yawambibwa ab'ekitongole kya JAT wakati mu mukuba naye, ne bwe yagezaako okubanga adduka ku kifo ekyo agendere ka bodaboda, era baamuwaliriza bw'oba otunuulidde akatambi ako ne bamukuba emiggo. Kino nno kyeyoleka lunye nti nno kano tetuli mu kalulu, oba oli awo tuli mu lutalo lwennyini. Effujjo ligenze maaso nga likolebwa kubanga lyakolebwa ku bantu ne babasiba ku poliisi e Kawempe era muze mu biraba ne wiiki eno yennyini gye tukuba amabega. President wa National Unity Platform His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert we yali agenda okunoonyeza obuwagizi candidate we mu kitundu ekya Kawempe era candidate waffe mwalaba ebyaliwo ng'afuluma ku kitebe kya National Unity Platform nga abajjati abatavaawo ku kitebe kati abagafudde amaka gaabwe nga bakuba abantu ne waya za solido, bakuba abantu na obugo bwabwe bayita batuuni, nga bakuba abawagizi ba National Unity Platform omuli n'abakyala, nti walabye n'omukyalo omu gwe bayita Nabbosa Mukisa yakubiddwa yenna mu mugongo waya eya solido, ate ne bamala ne bamusiba mu poliisi n'amalayo essaawa ezisukka 48. Ababaka ba Parliament bajiddwamu engoye emmyufu omuli Honorable Mwadanku Nyingi, Honorable Nyeko Deriki, Honorable Mulima Mayuni n'abawagizi abasukka 30. Era olunaku lw'okwosajjo basimbiddwa mu maaso g'omulamuzi w'eddaala erisooka e Kanyanya ne bavunaanibwa omusango gw'okweyisa ng'ekitagasa pozi n'okudamaginga oba bataddeko kudamaginga property. Ennaku zino kye bakoze, gavumenti ng'eyambibwako ebitongole by'okwerinda baggula ebisangosango ku bawagizi ba National Unity Platform. Mujja kujjukira bulungi nnyo nti era mu lunaku ezo nga tugenda mu kalulu k'e Kawempe waliwo omukuumi wa His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert Akirewo Kivumbi yawambibwa era naye n'atwalibwa e Masaka gye baamutwala ne bamuteekako ekisangosango ekya aggravated robbery. Kati bakyusizzaamu n'olutambi nti bwe bakwata mu byobufuzi nga bafuna ekisango kye bakola ki? Nga bafuna ekisango kye bakuteekako. Tuvumirira amagye agakampinga bwe tuba tugenda okukuba raale militale naddala, kati poliisi tekyabeera nawo, militale yeebeerawo. Jjo twali ne raale ku lunaku olwokubiri mu Kawempe 1 mu Kirokole wansi ku bidiba bya Ddungu, naye militale baleeta Jafanga namba ne yeebulungulula ekifo. Naye nga amateeka g'akakiiko k'ebyokulonda amagye tegakkirizibwa kubeera mu mbeera ng'eyo. Tuvumirira ne sekuvumirira yenna ebikolwa bino ebyekko. Abasajja bano abajjati batambula n'emiggo, batambula bakuba amasasi, bawandagaza amasasi nga bwe baagala, batambula n'obwambe. Omu ku nnamawulire waffe owa National Unity Platform yabadde akwata vidiyo era yasalwa mukono nga bagezaako omujjako kamera. Munnamawulire wa Top TV Ibrahim Miracle yakubwa eriiso kataliveemu nga naye bamukuba batuuni ate bamala ne bamusindika. Kansala w'ekitundu kya Bwayise bamuyita Nancha Ruth naye ali ku ndiri, akawanga ke baakadamaginga era akyali mu kufuna bujjanjabi. Munnamawulire w'emu ku media stations ennene mu ggwanga ayitibwa Stephen Kabwika Kibwika n'Embidde bakubiddwa nga babakaka okubeera nga tebakola mulimu gwabwe bulungi. Faawo nno nitwebuuza nti lwaki baggulira ebibiina by'ebyobufuzi okwetaayako? Vice President atugambye nti emyaka nga 2 emabega ebibiina byaweebwa okwetaaya, tujje tuvuganye. Lwaki bateekawo akalulu ng'ate bakimanyi bulungi nti baagala outcome ebeere yaabwe? Lwaki bakozesa eryanyi erisukkiridde ku bannansi abatalina mundu, abatalina biso, abatalina miggo, okubakuba ate nga embeera gye tulimu yakola ki? Yakalulu. So awe twebaliza Uganda Law Society ne Radical New Bar okubeera nga bataddewo omwatwa guno babeera ate nga bategeeza eggwanga ebigenda mu maaso oba okulwanirira eddembe ly'omuntu wa bulijjo, kubanga ekiri e Kawempe kifumba mutuku. Awo tusabira Mwami Simon Byabakama bwe kiba kyetaagisa kuyimiriza bigenda mu maaso asooka abiyimirize embeera emala okutereera, olwo tuleke tugende bulungi mu kalulu. N'olw'ebigambo ebyo munzikirize enkomaawo neeyanzisa nnyo neyanzeege. Mwebale nnyo, mwebalire ddala. Omukama atakuumira mpeera abankuumire. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Magala Umar, for sharing with us what happened in Kawempe North. I now take this pleasure to invite Mr. Sasi Marvin Noplego to address us.
Mr. Vice President, sir, Madam CEO, all members of the Uganda Law Society Council present here, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Like I've already been introduced, my name is Sas Marvin. Officially, I serve as the Secretary for Diaspora Affairs in the National Unity Platform. Unofficially, I serve in so many capacities in the party, including being a member of the party's legal team, for which reason I was invited here today. When I was coming, when I received the call from Mr. Vice President, I asked myself what exactly I wanted to be the takeaway from what I would say today. And after watching all the speakers who have come before me, after listening to the sad stories from our countrymen and women in Karamoja, I finally concluded on what exactly I want to communicate. The way I see it, I want to put things in their proper context. I want to put the situation in our country in its proper context so that we all stop acting as if we are in one way or another detached from the reality. I know some of the things I'm going to say might be a bit discomforting to some of us, maybe here or those who are watching us on online, but I still must say them because they must be said. Colleagues, the reality is that Uganda and Ugandans are dealing with a regime that's doing all it can to remain in power. That is its primary priority. That is its primary goal. That's its primary intention. That is the main thing it seeks to achieve from everything and anything that it does. Excuse me a moment. I could not help but conclude when I watched again the testimonies from the families of our brothers and sisters in Karamoja, that the bottlenecks in accessing justice and promoting the rule of law that people keep highlighting, we keep complaining about, they are all deliberate. They are not accidental. They are not some kind of mistakes. They are all deliberately designed to achieve the number one priority of the Museveni regime that I have just highlighted. But of course, in achieving that objective, the regime has to, in one way or another, control all aspects of public life. That, among others, includes controlling public opinion. That includes controlling the economy. and especially the main foreign exchange earning industries in Uganda. And the regime has, either deliberately or from experience, designed certain responses depending on how its officials, its cronies, its allies, its accomplices, whatever you may call it, depending on how such kinds of people that help it to perpetuate its objectives are received by the areas where they go. A few years ago, I worked on a case. Before I joined NUP, I had been in law firms. I had been in one run by the current president of the Uganda Law Society, Mr. Isaac Samakade, where I was for 4 years. And then thereafter, I went and joined Counsel Aaron Kiza's firm. And when I was with Counsel Aaron, we worked on some cases in Mubende. Mubende, for those of you who are uninitiated, is a mineral-rich area in Uganda. They have gold and I think other minerals. So the regime, some cronies from the regime had evicted entire villages of people from their land because that land had minerals, that land had gold. And of course, the community put up resistance aided by local area leaders. What the regime did in a conspiracy that involved the DPC of Hoima at the time, that involved the sitting judge in the High Court there, that involved the state attorney, every authority you can imagine. They rounded a few of the leaders who were empowering the community in their pushback against this eviction, threw them in prison, and charged them with offenses including rape, destruction of property, murder, and other things. By the time we intervened, they had been in prison for, I think, over 2 years. Eventually, they regained their freedom after we took some actions that led to the removal of the sitting judge at the time, the DPC, even the officer who was in charge of prison, there's a prison in, I mean, when I say Hoima, I mean Mubende. So there's a prison in Mubende whose name I've forgotten, but even the OC was at one point involved that he tried to block us from getting these people who had been remanded to sign affidavits in support of their bail applications. They were eventually freed, but that was not the end of the story. When you go to Karamoja, Karamoja again is a mineral-rich area. The difference between Karamoja and other areas like Mubende that I've just highlighted, the people of Karamoja, given their history, many are armed, and I think many out of, and I hope I don't sound insensitive, I think many out of the trauma that they have grown up in one way or another, I think they tend to be violent. Again, my intention is not to sound insensitive or offensive, that is. And so, when the regime now goes there to control swathes of land that have minerals, of course, besides other factors that took it there, it is dealing with a population that is not just against its actions, but is also armed. So I remember at one point the regime was claiming that judicial officers in Karamoja fear to try Karamojong warriors or the Karachunas. And so the regime claimed that it's therefore subjecting all suspects from Karamoja to trials in the court-martial. Of course, if the regime were acting in good faith, there would be no recourse to the court-martial. The regime would have empowered the judiciary in such areas. Maybe they could have improved the security of the judicial officers involved, the prosecutors and all that. But of course, using the court-martial was just a smokescreen to hide its true intentions. The regime puts people in the court-martial to keep them away, to keep them out of circulation. For you and I, we might think what the regime does really is about enforcing the law, promoting the rule of law and all that. But I think that's far from it. That's really not the regime's ultimate goal. Okay, thank you. In Entebbe, we had a gentleman called Ivan Katongole, who was at that time, about, I think 2017, who was at that time the leading, the richest and leading exporter of fish mao in Nuni, in Uganda. So apparently the story goes that one general from the regime approached him and offered him 5 billion as a loan to boost his business. When the businessman, this Ivan man, sought advice from his father, the father apparently told him that that is a disguised attempt by the regime to take over your business. So when Ivan came back and rejected the deal, they charged Ivan with the murders of women that were ongoing in Entebbe at the time. He spent several years in jail. By the time he returned, police officers had stolen his property, including one, I think, called Siraji Bakareke. Ultimately, he was acquitted. He was not just acquitted, but the court went ahead and said that his trial had been one of malicious prosecution. I'm giving you these examples to build the point I made earlier, that for the regime, part of its grand plan of perpetuating itself in power includes controlling all key aspects of the Ugandan society, including controlling the economy and all that. Back to the first point, even when it comes to what we saw in Kawempe, what we have seen in other by-elections, because this by-election in Kawempe North is not the first one, what we saw in the campaigns of 2021, ultimately they all come back to the same thing. When you see the regime unleashing JAT operatives on the population, it unleashes JAT operatives on the candidate, Narugol areas. It unleashes JAT operatives on the NUP president and his team that was going to campaign for Council Narugola. It unleashes JAT operatives on journalists. These are not accidental occurrences. It wants to send a message of back off. Not just to NUP, but to everyone who might in one way or another stand in the way of it achieving its main objective of remaining in power against all odds. When they beat the journalist, they want that story to send shockwaves across the country. They want everyone to now fear and say, if your civilian Muslims are big endamu, when they will treat me the same way they treated the journalists, they will treat me the same way they treated Narukola and those NUP supporters. And come to think about it in some respects, this seems to be working. Because for sure you will find people who are saying we cannot involve ourselves in politics. You will find people shying away from talking about or criticizing the goings on in the country because they fear, I might be the next victim of abduction. I might be the next victim in my line of work as a journalist, as a lawyer. There is a reason why Councillor Aaron Kiza remains stuck in prison. There is a reason why his application for habeas corpus was denied under the guise that it had been filed in the wrong court. All those things are meant to send a certain message. And so if sections of the population, if lawyers, as some of us might be here, if journalists think that they are living in some kind of utopia where the trouble that befalls NUP stops at NUP, they are wrong. And that's the message they should get. And that's the message I wanted to communicate. At the end of the day, one way or another, we are all going to become victims. Whether you want it or not, whether you envisaged yourself as a victim or you did not. So in conclusion, what's going on in our country, the violence that we have been subjected to in Kawempe, the violence that we are going to see more of in the coming months and in the run-up to the 2026 elections, if they happen, and even during the elections and after the elections, if the regime thought that such occurrences are going to demoralize us or to discourage us, that's not necessarily the case. If anything, they vindicate us, but they also make our mission of replacing the regime of Mr. Museveni even more critical, even more urgent. What I can say in final conclusion is that it's going to get worse before it gets better. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Sasi. The two speakers we have heard from NUP have both told us the ordeal that the journalists underwent during the by-election. I now take this opportunity to invite Mr. Emmanuel Kironda, the General Secretary, Uganda Journalists Association, who is here representing the President. Let us hear from him.
Mr. President, with your entire staff, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed, good afternoon to you. My name is Emmanuel Chirunda. I've been introduced. I am the General Secretary, Uganda Journalists Association, representing the President of the association. First and foremost, I'm honored to be here. We are honored to be part of this engagement, whose intention is seeking to explore solutions to the prevailing impunity or acts of impunity, the growing acts of impunity on journalists and citizens in that regard. As we speak right now, as of 6th of March and 21st of February this year, 4 cases of violations have been recorded and documented. They have been occasioned in various forms. One is detention, another one is torture, another one is assault, you can call it clobbering or beating, and another one is interception of coverage. Who are the perpetrators? The perpetrators, one of the perpetrators has been the judiciary. One of the journalists by the name of Musa Sewankambo, who is attached to Kingdom Television, was detained at Nakawa Court. He was capturing footage of Dr. Besje's story when he appeared in that court. That one of clobbering is of the top TV journalist, Miracle Ibra, who was on 26th of last month belligerently attacked by security personnel under JAT, which is composed of the UPDF and police officers. They were covering a story, nomination of parliamentary candidates in Kawempe North by election. He was beaten, badly beaten. His face was injured to the point of almost losing his eye. I have heard from them today. We went there. I had the privilege of going there to visit him, and we've been in regular contact with the family. They have been discharged from Nsambia Hospital back home. Then the other case of violation of torture was occasioned on Stephen Mbide of NTV and Stephen Chibuika, again of NTV. They were at one police station. They were making a follow-up, covering a story. There were some detainees from the National Unity Platform. Officers there descended on Mbide and roughed up him as if he was a criminal, although he had identified himself, although he had engaged them, but they could not listen. What does this speak to? All this speaks to the acts of impunity in our country. And I would like to use this space to condemn those acts because one, they are illegal, and then two, they are casting our country in bad light. But three, they have far-reaching implications on the landscape of media freedom in Uganda. And when a journalist is attacked, if you may not know, it is the public that suffer because you will not be able to access information. So attacks that are occasioned on journalists have far-reaching implications on access to information. You won't be able to access credible information, well-balanced information, as laid out by journalists. They impact onto the independence of the media and journalists. When independence of journalists is under attack, that means what you get is otherwise. And then three, it leaves impairment. There is physical, damage, impairment. For example, Ibra was attacked, he can hardly see, and really is living in a very difficult situation. As I wind up, what you are seeing is a replay of what happened in 2021 elections. And journalists were, and after they were beaten, the Uganda Journalists Association with Timothy Murungi and Henry Sekanjako filed a petition with the High Court. We were challenging the beating by the UPDF here at the UN office. Good enough, the landmark judgment was handed down last year in November. There was a declaration that beating of journalists is illegal, and so it should never happen. But what you are witnessing is that there is no respect to that by the security agencies. So I call upon everyone, the Uganda Law Society has come in, I call upon everyone to combine forces with journalists to resist these growing acts of impunity because they have far-reaching implications on us. If we don't, then it is our country that is headed for the worst. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, our guest speakers. We really appreciate your time. We shall take this opportunity to take questions from the audience, either online or physically, that will address the three guest speakers' speeches, if that's okay. I hope that's okay, Mr. Vice President and Madam CEO. Any questions? Physically and those online? Okay. There is a hand. Yes, there is a hand of one Achen Dembe. Could we mute her? All right, we're not able to pick her. We shall proceed. We shall proceed if we are able to pick her. Madam CEO, we shall receive her question or comment, whatever it is. In the meantime, back to you. Thank you so much.
I take this opportunity to welcome the Treasurer of Uganda Law Society to make his remarks. You're welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank each and everyone who has physically attended this session. I would also like to thank Mr. Magala Umaru. I last had an interface with Mr. Magala Umaru when he was charged with terrorism. I think that is almost 1 year and a half ago. It was very sad. The way it ended, I don't want to mention it, but that is when I had an interface with Mr. Magala Umaru. Council Sasi Marvin is a member of Uganda Law Society, a member of NUP and legal officer. By then he was legal officer when I also had an interaction with him. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to send greetings from the President of Uganda Law Society, who is away for official business. And I would like to make the following comments or observations. Members of press, public, and members who are online. Uganda Law Society is pro-people. Uganda Law Society is non-partisan. The cornerstone of Uganda Law Society is rule of law. We can all achieve the success in all fields that we intend to pursue if we live by the rule of law. One of the famous quotes that was made was to the effect that you can only fight for rule of law. And once you fight for rule of law, you'll always achieve it. But the biggest challenge with rule of law is how to retain it. It's like political power. You have to fight to retain political power. The political milestone for this society and for the country at large is the observance of rule of law. The greatest question that we have at hand is the issue of the Kawempe by-elections. As you have all seen, the scenes are unexplainable. We are seeing beatings, and beatings are happening and sanctioned by leaders in the police. The Uganda police, as a society, we put you to alert. Beating of civilians or any member of the society is illegal. The duty of the police is to maintain law and order. It is disheartening. It breaks our hearts that the people who are supposed to keep rule of law, who are supposed to ensure that everything moves on as smoothly as it is planned, are the same people that are targeting the civilians. Elections are supposed to be free and fair. Let's make the political ground fair for all political actors. Like I said, Uganda Law Society is non-partisan. But if a certain political party can freely campaign without any chaos, and then we see another political party trying to mobilize, but the chaos is so bad. People are being hospitalized. People are being taken in courts of law. And their charge is because they are trying to win the hearts of the masses. Let's allow all political parties to exercise freely. This has been clearly stipulated by the Vice President of Uganda Law Society. In 2005, that is around 20 years ago, we took that path of multi-party politics, meaning we can operate through different political parties. Let's allow that to flourish. Our sisters and brothers who are still in jail over matters that arose or that were being tried in the court martial, the Karachuna. This issue came up on the 23rd of June 2023. His Excellency, the President of Uganda, had an interface with those Karamojongs. And he was very clear that as the government, they were taking all initiatives to ensure that they can create a transformation in the lives of the Karamajongs. We understand that there was a trial process that took place, but the Supreme Court was very clear that all the transactions, all the proceedings that happened in the court martial were null and void. And therefore, such proceedings should be transferred to the civil courts of law. It's now going to a month. All we can see is the transfer of only prominent cases. We only saw the transfer of Kano Kizza Besigye from the military court to the civil courts of law. But then what is the fate of the hundreds and thousands of other civilians who are they're still trapped. They're trapped in the bureaucracy of the Director of Public Prosecutions. They're trapped in the bureaucracy of the Uganda prisons and the judiciary. Let's not gamble with the liberty of Ugandans. The Directorate of Public Prosecution, headed by Honorable Justice Abodo, let's not gamble with the liberty of civilians. Honorable Chief Justice, Honorable Alfonso Wenyidolo, let's not gamble with the lives and the liberty of civilians. These people deserve a right to be heard properly in the courts as declared by the Supreme Court. On the 8th of March 2025, we shall be celebrating the Women's Day. As Uganda Law Society, through our council member, region, Council Nangulu Edmund, we have organized the Eastern Bar Women in Law Dialogue, where we intend to have a dialogue with the judiciary. We intend to have a dialogue with the Directorate of Public Prosecution. We intend to have a dialogue with the private lawyers. Women, we exist because women do exist. And Uganda Law Society, we pride in that. And that explains why we have had in succession, 3 chief executive officers who are women. As Uganda Law Society, I want to put it on record that for the last 3 consecutive times, we have had women as the chief executive officers of this entity. I will end by quoting a quote by His Excellency, the President of Uganda, that he made in Nairobi, December 18th, 1985. He said that the people of Uganda did not start violence. The people of Uganda did not start violence. In fact, the president said he was an intellectual. He was a thinker, just like our brothers here. Council Sasi Marvin has given up his youth full time to ensure that the members of this country continue to have that liberty. I therefore, in conclusion, say that all of us, regardless of your rank, regardless of your profession, we can ensure that this country remains peaceful. Thank you so much.
And this comes to the end of our press and public engagement. Like I said, this is the 8th series. I take this opportunity to thank all the members who joined online, who have attended physically, council members who joined online and have attended physically, the members of the public who joined online. Thank you very much for having joined and listened in, made comments, and also asked questions. I also thank the law team that prepared the event, head of Rule of Law, Ms. Apio Afra. She worked closely with Gwenny and Robert. I also thank the council members who have participated, the Vice President and the Treasurer, and our guests today, the Secretary of the Journalists Association, and then our 2 guests today who have shared experiences which you all are watched live on news and also read in the press. Whatever they were talking about, we were letting, because we all watched this, and it's so scaring. I was talking to my children, and they were wondering what was happening on TV. I even failed to explain what was happening, but I was pondering with a question and saying, is this a picture we have that we are going to have coming 2026 in the elections? It was just a question in my mind, and we are all watching and waiting to see if it will be any better, or if we'll have seen where it started from and where it's going. Thank you very much. Right now, I invite our guests, the council members present here and members of the Rule of Law team, to come and take a picture. But I've closed the series. Thank you.